Purple eye in the canyon. That's where
Yeah, but I think that there's something. Rain. That's it. Rain. The energy drink. Yeah, white gummy bear Rain is a little favorite of mine.
So they all have to be like candy oriented, though. I mean, that's a Jolly Rancher.
Well,
Can't fool
I'm
me.
learning new things about myself all the time.
That's what podcasts are about.
So yeah, I guess I do gravitate towards the candy flavors.
Are you a big candy person?
Man, unfortunately, no. Well, maybe that's not unfortunate, but
Well, the unfortunate part about it is from now on, my nickname for you is Big Candy.
Big Candy.
That's actually a pretty good nickname.
I mean, it's not bad. Except I can't. I don't do the candy. I love
You don't
candy.
even eat it? That's
I
even
do
better.
sometimes.
Why do you call him
but-
Big Candy? Well, he
just
hates
doesn't
candy.
do it.
Yeah,
He's got this zero sugar personality these days.
He's just got the most bland personality.
No, man. I just I love candy, but I just can't eat it. It's bad for you. You know, the beaties will creep in.
The what?
The diabetes.
Oh,
man.
the beaties.
The beaties is no good.
No.
I mean, I don't have it, but I don't want it. So
I won't give it to you.
but it's all good, man. I sneak some every once in a while, and with Halloween just being here and coming and going, my kids cleaned up like a whole pillowcase full of candy.
Did they not get sick?
Well, so Sarah actually, as soon as they got back, because they had like 4 different costume themed parties they had to go
Yeah.
to, and then of course they got candy at all of them, trick or treating.
Right.
So they came home with it, and she hid it somewhere from me too, which is great. Like I saw it, like the mother load, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so much candy!" And then I never saw it again. And the kids, they get like, maybe 2 or 3 little pieces of candy if they insist or they're lucky.
Well, and I would imagine you're in a pretty good neighborhood.
Oh yeah. There's a ton of other kids too
Yeah.
that have. I mean, it's a good neighborhood for trick or treating. Growing up, I feel like we lived in a neighborhood that just had a ton of old people, and we'd go knocking on doors, and they'd be like, "Do you want an apple or something?"
Oh, they weren't into it.
They give us a can of corn or something.
Yeah, I handed out constitutions one time.
Really?
Little miniature constitutions. So when I was in college, I thought it was really funny. I was going to educate the youth on American history.
Hell yeah.
They didn't think it was nearly as fun.
Well, I guess when they're looking for sugar and you show up with that.
Yeah, I said the only reason you have the freedom to come and get this candy is right here in this little pamphlet.
Yeah.
But that was my Facebooking days.
Yep.
Where I'd post how I really felt about things on Facebook.
Okay.
Share some
said
political posts.
You keep knocking on my door, and I'm gonna show you that Second Amendment.
Don't you live in Granbury?
I do. Yeah.
Are you near the lake?
I'm not right waterfront, but the neighborhood that I live in it's got a little marina in it. So I'm close, and we got a boat a couple years ago, which has been super handy because my experience with boats before, it's a whole day of getting it out of storage, getting it cleaned up,
Yeah.
and there's always a flat tire on the trailer or something. But we've actually been able to use it because we put it in a slip there in the marina, so it's been super handy, which reminds me it's about time to winterize. It's always a bummer.
No kidding.
But yeah, once you start seeing those temps down in the in the 20s, 30s in the forecast, you got to start thinking about that. Otherwise, it gets expensive to fix it.
So y'all go a bunch during the summer.
Oh yeah, try to. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a surfboat or something?
Yeah, it's a Malibu.
Yeah, buddy.
And, yeah, dude. So I'm not great on the surfboard. I just like to drive.
Yeah.
But my kids are. This year was the first time that they actually attempted to get up on the surfboard.
How'd
And
it
Sarah's
go?
great with it.
Oh,
but,
really?
Yeah, she's nice with it. But yeah, they got up a little bit this summer, and the older they get, the more interested they become. And Sarah's always been into that. She used to wakeboard a lot too. So,
Oh, really? Where's she from?
New Braunfels.
Oh, Oh yeah, Brazos. Well, I guess Cranberry is on the Brazos too. But wait, no, the Brazos doesn't go through New Braunfels.
Guadalupe down there.
Guad.
Yeah, there's Comal and Guadalupe.
Can you do anything like that on the Guadalupe?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple of smaller lakes. There's of course Canyon Lake, which it's low right now, but you can surf on that one. And then there's also a lake. It's called Lake Placid, and then I can't think of it right now. But it's interesting. Like the lake, the whole entire lake is only like 8 feet deep. So it's weird because it looks like a wide body of water, but you're riding around on your boat, and there's almost points where it's like you're just ripping around on a wakeboard or whatever, and you're only in like 6-7 feet of water. So it's just always been weird to me. It's like when I learned how to do it, we're in 50 feet of water.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, I mean, damn, you got a stump on the ground or something. You just run that prop or whatever. It just, it always,
when you fall, I mean, you just die.
yeah. It's just always creeped me out, moving fast on a boat and, relatively shallow water.
Yeah, I think that's a normal fear. I think it's weirder if somebody doesn't fear it.
Well, yeah. I mean, but there was all this waterfront property, and they got these, big lake houses. It was wild, though. A couple of years ago, maybe more than a couple of years ago now, but one of the dams broke and drained one of those lakes, and, like, the city decided they weren't going to fix the dam, and so there's all these, like, waterfront properties that are now sitting in front of a dry lake. It's wild. Because, all that water took off. We had a bad flood, and it overwhelmed one of the dams and broke it. And, the city was like, no, we're not going to fix that.
I would imagine pretty fancy houses, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch
my
of people that are not
There's
happy
no
about
recourse for that, is it?
I mean, unless they just want to band together and pay for it themselves or get it privately funded. But who knows how much that costs.
Can you imagine?
But
what bad luck.
I know, dude. It's
Holy
crazy.
Cow.
But the dam or the levee or whatever, it was like 100, well, maybe not that old, but like way, way old, like 50 plus years old.
Yeah.
And so when it finally gave way, I don't know why, but if it was just too expensive or they felt like they didn't want to mess with it. But yeah, just people that were living there just kind of out of luck.
Are you from down there, or where are you originally from?
San Antonio.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I grew up. And then 2004 came up to Denton, went to UNT, and from there I've just kind of been around the North Texas area.
Did you go to music school or no?
Nah.
You just went to hang?
I took a few classes.
Yeah.
I found out pretty quick they wanted to teach me more than I cared to learn. So it was cool, though. I mean, I met some band members early on from there, and
It's a good place
I wasn't
to
a
meet
jazz musician, so I just didn't have that. I mean, I taught myself how to play guitar, and I really had an interest in music, but the theory of it just really didn't compute with me. It was just more of like hearing and learning how to do it just by kind of figuring it out versus like I've never really been good at reading music from paper.
Yeah. I think people would be surprised how good of a guitar player you are.
Well, it comes and goes. See, I think I'm better than I am sometimes when I go to rip into a solo of like, ooh.
Yeah, no, I get it. You might not be like technically the most proficient guy, but you surprise me. I remember seeing you at a sound check at one point, and I don't remember where it was, but I was with one of my other buddies. This was years ago, but I remember you playing "Good Love." Good love is on the way.
Oh man,
and a little John Mayer tune, and that's when I was a fan. I was like, hell yeah,
yeah, dude. John Mayer is definitely an early inspiration for me when I started playing guitar.
That's funny. That's like the most surprising one. Whenever, because it's the same for me. I think if you grew up in the early 2000s playing the guitar and trying to write songs and singing, you're weird if you weren't into John Mayer.
Oh yeah.
But whenever I tell people that, it always surprises them. You know, they want to be like, well, who's a huge influence? I've just noticed a lot of us shy away from the Mayer reference. Yeah. And then when we finally say it, people are like, really? John Mayer. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's great, man. He was great, just an absolute beast. And of course, like in the growing up, like kind of when I did, that was when the internet first came around, and then in college, you had Facebook and MySpace and all this stuff, and then there's just the quick exposure that you had. I feel like you found out a lot and put a name to a face with the music and stuff.
He was like the
just so
initial kind of
quickly.
guy with the internet. I mean, that was like right at the beginning of really being able to like.
Yeah.
Because I think he did like free downloads and stuff of some of his music, and that was pretty new
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah, man. It was definitely an interesting thing. And when I was first starting to play guitar, that was kind of what I did. I'd hear a song on the radio or something, and I'd try and figure it out to as best as I could before the song was over on the radio. And then I'd go to the internet, and there was this Country Tabs website that I would just look up, and they had lyrics and chords and stuff. So I would figure it out from there. And yeah, I mean, I played a very bastardized version of many of the songs that I learned how to play because, those weren't guaranteed to be right. It was just like, here's what I think it is. And anybody from any place could just type up the lyrics and submit it to the website, and then it's up live. So I learned how to play plenty of songs the wrong way doing that.
Yeah. What do you think the process was for you going from sort of emulating people that you wanted to sound like, wanted to be like maybe, and then that transitional phase of then like, you probably don't consciously realize it once it happens, but that phase of turning into like actually who you are as an artist, the way you sing, the way you play, that's all like really elusive. And I feel like at a moment, I've always had people tell me that like, you just need to find your voice, like your thing. And that's just almost an impossible thing to chase. I think just by doing it long enough and doing it enough, it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
What was that process like for you? Or did you just start playing and you kind of had your own thing and it was unique? And
Man, early on, I felt like I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted my voice to sound like and what direction I wanted to take, but at the same time was kind of confused because my taste and my preferred music was kind of all over the place, and I liked so many different things. I mean, country was where I first started to kind of relate, I feel like, with music from a lyrical standpoint, and certainly once I started writing, country was the natural vein for me to go in. But I mean, growing up, I listened to all kinds of stuff like classic rock, yacht rock, if you will, like easy listening, kind of soft rock from the day. But then my mom was a big James Taylor fan. Billy Joel was frequently on the record player at the house. Eagles, of course, Elton John, Stevie Wonder. But then, like, I also grew up, like, my dad was in off-Broadway musicals. And so, like, that whole Phantom of the Opera type of thing, Annie Get Your Gun, Fiddler on the Roof, like, watching theater was also a really normal thing for us to do. We had season tickets to the Majestic Theater in San Antonio. So there would be 8 to 10 shows we'd go to every year. And that was just, it was really interesting. I loved that. But also it was just, kind of muddied the water as far as what I, like, my sound. And so I never really knew how to really track any of that down. I just started playing, I'd learn a new song and it would be a lot of early on classic rock type stuff, things that I could figure out how to play and sing to. But then once I started writing, it was just like country started to kind of reveal itself as to my most comfortable medium as far as telling stories, and what I felt like I could come up with melodically.
Yeah.
Lent itself to country songs. And then co-writing only opened doors in that same kind of thing as when I I first started writing with other people, it became apparent quickly that this was a really handy tool to have and ability to have. Like you don't just get stuck on something yourself. You can bring in your buddies after you break down this uncomfortable barrier of talking about anything and everything, sometimes deeply emotional things when you're writing songs. Once you pass that, you can talk to your buddies that you're writing with about anything. It becomes a lot more fun and creative of a process when you're writing. For me, anyways, I enjoyed songwriting, co-writing. I enjoyed songwriting a lot more once I started co-writing.
Interesting.
It just, for years I did it by myself, and I wrote some cool songs, but I just felt like it was often more productive when I was able to bounce ideas off of, a trusted resource.
Yeah.
So,
do you think it was like a confidence thing, or was it just an enjoyability thing?
I mean, definitely both, because, and for me, like when I would do things by myself, it would really take a lot of effort for me to start and finish a song. It seemed like it was, if I got stuck, it was just a lot harder for me to push through when I was by myself. I would just, let's go play golf or go take a walk or whatever. Let's find anything else to do, because I'm stuck. And
let's find anything else to do.
Yeah. But when you're with your buddies, you've got a common goal, and then it's like, let's work a little harder because we're all here together, and I feel like we're onto something. And there's just that little bit of added push that has created a lot more songs that would have otherwise just been stuck in a notebook somewhere and never finished.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting showing somebody an idea. When I'm by myself, I could even get like pretty well done with a song and feel really good about it. Listen back to it, be like, dude, this is freaking good. And when I show somebody it and I start playing it for them, I will almost, even if I'm playing the recording of it or am actually performing it for them, within like 2 or 3 seconds, they don't even have to say anything. They don't have to do anything. It's not even like their posture changes. I will almost, when I'm showing it to them, I will almost like be like, yeah, this isn't that good.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? I barely listened to it. And you're like, no, I don't, it's weird. It's almost like once you present it to somebody, you yourself almost look at it more objectively.
Yeah.
Just by showing it to someone. Mm-hmm. And I'll just shut it. I'm just like, this is terrible. This is not good. They're like, I actually kind of like it.
You know what, on second thought, this was a terrible idea. Let's stop this. And
I haven't been able to pinpoint exactly what that is, like psychologically for, I wonder, I don't know if everybody's like that. I think that's part of what co-writing is. You're also like any suggestion that you make and say, you're probably more apprehensive just because you're saying it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So you're already filtering it and editing it a little bit, which can become debilitating at times.
Yeah. But I mean, there's been so many times when I have an idea, it's just not fully refined yet. And I'll be like, man, what I'm trying to say, and this probably isn't the right way to say it, but then you say what you're thinking, and then like they kind of understand, but then it just gets filtered a little bit when they repeat it back or when they think about it. Now you can clean that idea up just a little bit more, and sometimes that's all you need. Like, you had the right kind of thought, but it took somebody else to twist it to make it sit just right, in the lyric where it needed to. So,
who was some of the first people that you really started co-writing with?
So in 2013, I started writing with Sea Gayle, which is I got a publishing deal with Sea Gayle out of Nashville. Chris DuBois, Frank Rogers, and Brad Paisley were the kind of the three-way partners of that deal. And Chris was the one that signed me and was one of the first people that I wrote with, and one of the people that I wrote with the most. So Chris DuBois, and then also Brent Anderson, who I've written probably half of my songs with Brent. And
was that just by way, were you going out to Nashville and doing like writers rounds and showcases or something?
Yeah. So
Okay.
from 2013 to about 2018, 19, right, until right before 2020, I was up there every month for typically a week. I would show in, like I'd play shows on the weekend. And then Sunday I'd fly up, and then I'd write Monday through Thursday or Friday, and then fly back home, play some more shows, and then do it again next month.
Yeah, you were grinding.
So yeah, I mean, it was definitely something. Now that I've got 2 young kids, it's hard to maintain that sort of pace along with our touring schedule, but. I still get out there. I don't write for Sea Gayle anymore, but I still am close with several of the writers there. And matter of fact, Brent and I are we've started the recording process for my next record, which don't have a release date yet, but we're 4 or 5 songs into it, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll have finished it up. And yeah, so I'm excited about that. I wrote a couple more for it just like maybe 2 weeks ago when I was out there. I'm going back next week to record and hopefully write some more. So new music is imminent, but it's not done, so it'll be coming soon though.
Is it stylistically in the same vein as stuff that you've done before? Or?
Yeah. There's definitely some familiar elements to it, but we're recording a different way this time, which I'm really kind of excited about because it's allowed me to just be a lot more hands-on with it.
Cool.
Traditionally, I've gone out there and we've booked a studio and a session band, and we have 2 or 3 concentrated studio days where we're in the studio with the band and really trying to get them as familiar as we can and explain as quickly and efficiently as we can how we want things played, because the window is just kind of small.
Yeah. We've
only got a few days to record everything while the band is here. Of course, you can go back and overdub and things like that later, but it starts to get pretty expensive when you're using a studio and renting space and paying for these guys. And so this time, Brent has a studio at his house, and he's got great gear, and he's like a wizard with anything with strings. So he can play every kind of guitar and slide and stuff. And we're recording most of it ourselves. We'll end up going back when it's done and overdubbing live drums, and then adding some fiddle and maybe some other things. But from the recording standpoint, him and I are kind of back and forth on the harmonies, and I'm playing some of the guitars, but he's doing a lot of the music himself. He's just playing it there in the studio and pass after pass, playing the different instruments.
But you're
things.
able to sort of tinker with him a little bit, though, on different sounds and ideas.
Yeah, so whereas in the studio with the regular band or session band, we can get through 4 or 5 songs in a 4-hour block. But with this process, it's taking us. We're getting one song a day, maybe 1 song a day.
But they're probably really unique.
But it's also we're taking the time because sometimes after a day or two, you're like, man, I wish we would have played it just a little different, or if this part was like that. But when the guys are already gone, you can't go back unless you want to hire them again to come back for a full day at the studio. You can't do that, and so. It's just really cool to be able to kind of take our time and map these songs out and spend the time while, the whole day we're playing it over and over, and just be a lot more meticulous about the parts going in. And if something's not sitting right, we'll change it.
Yeah.
No problem. And
do you enjoy that more?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do, man. And, starting early on in the studio, from my first couple of records, I just found the studio environment to be very stressful because everything's under a microscope. It's very expensive. You've got a concentrated amount of time, and you just got to get it done or live with. Because these things, once they're recorded and once it's done, it's out and it's done. You can't change it, and it's for life. And so when you're doing that for the first time, and like I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, and so I was also nervous about, well, am I putting this in the right hands? Have I found the right guys to put this together? Have I made the right decision? Whatever. There's just a lot of unsure thoughts about the whole thing. And recording with other people, once I got to Nashville and those studios, it was much different than doing that same thing in Texas, but less stressful because I just felt like I was dealing with much more professional atmosphere and people that are doing it every day and have been doing it like this for years. But it still wasn't like I'd wake up on a studio day like I can't wait to get in here and create. I'm still just like, man, I hope we get what we need and hope we can polish this as best as we can.
And then, like, did you have some anxiety about, I mean, I guess that's basically what you're saying. Some anxiety about, like, I hope they end up doing what I hear in my head.
Yeah.
But when you just only have an hour and a half to track a song, 2 hours to track a song, it's like, it's probably, you're not going to be sitting there, like, really tinkering with, the freaking, the slide part and the sound of the, I do think there's some really great songs that sort of get, it's sort of ruined in a way, like, because they just don't get unpacked in the way that they were supposed to. And the Nashville model of recording is incredible because the players are so good and they can get an incredible sounding song and an incredible arrangement in like under an hour. And it sounds great. It really does. But that sometimes comes at the expense of like being unique and original, and it starts to just sound like everything else. I mean, that's how you can get it done so fast.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the iconic songs that we always keep going back to, like it's all these tunes from like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Like granted, there's a region their recording budgets were like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So you've got that. I get it. But also they spent a tremendous amount of time playing through the songs, developing sounds, finding cool little band moments. And I don't hear that as much anymore. And so I'm kind of in the same boat with the way I want to record, because the recording studio is always really intimidating to me too, because I'm not the best player. Yeah. But I knew I had cool ideas, but it was just going to take me a second to like work through them. Yep. But when you've got this freaking guy who's like an absolute savant sitting there, it's easy to be like, all right, you do it. You just go ahead. Exactly. But then sometimes as an artist, that takes out the uniqueness of it in a way.
Yeah. And there's definitely been more times that I've been absolutely floored and the product in the end came out way better than I would have ever thought. Yeah. It's like, well, I'm glad that you played this because I could sit here for weeks and never do this on my own. Yeah. But, it's really cool. And I really just am looking forward to this process more so than others before, because Brent has produced me, but he's produced a couple of my albums in the past. We've written a ton together. But this way of doing it, I just know I can trust him for sure. He knows what kind of sounds that I'm going for. As far as producers go, I mean, there's plenty of them that'll take your money and they'll put you in a studio and get you a good quality sounding record. But I mean, I wasn't just trying to put out another record because it's time and we need one. I was like, man, I really want to put out, like, I feel like right now is just not that I'm at a crossroads in my career, but I feel like there's a incentive for me to put out my best stuff every time that I do it. And I just don't want to go in there and take a chance with somebody that I don't know that's going to produce my record the way that they might want to. I really am excited about this one because I feel like him and I have created really cool stuff in the past, and the way that we're able to do it this time is just it lends itself to being able to putting out something that's just potentially the best that I've put out yet, because we know we have a common goal in mind, and then we have the ability to just do it and spend the time with it to make it sound exactly like we want to. So that was kind of rambling, but
that's the whole point.
It's I'm just confident to hear you say that, and I'm really relieved once we started recording this way. and now that I've seen how, like, just in the limited time that I've spent so far on this record, it's exciting to me to see what it's going to end up being, because I'm excited about this process, whereas in years past I've just been like a little bit apprehensive. So it's cool, man. I'm
super
pumped
dope
about it.
I'm excited too, because I've never really, I mean, I've known you like for, a few years and stuff, but never really gotten to like, I guess you've always been kind of interesting to me just because I knew how good of a player and singer you were. And I'm like, somebody doesn't get that good without being like super into music,
Yeah.
Like there's some guys that like have successful careers and stuff, and they might be good, but they're totally kind of uninterested in the creative process. Mm-hmm. I've discovered that lately, which just was like mind shattering.
Yeah.
I just couldn't even wrap my head around it. They like the performance element of it.
Yep.
So I was always kind of curious about you, because like you always struck me as somebody that like enjoyed the performance, but I just always felt like there was something beneath it where it's like you really enjoyed the creative process. So like that's cool to hear.
Yeah,
because it's actually more uncommon than I realized.
Man, I there's definitely been times when it scared the shit out of me. But you grow, and as an artist, I feel like I've just tried to put my best foot forward every time. And with this process of recording, I'm encouraged even more about this particular album. I mean, who knows where it's gonna sit as far as my best work is concerned. But this is, for this early on in the process, I mean, I'm as confident as I've ever been in anything.
Have you ever had a record deal?
No.
You ever gone that route?
No, I mean,
I know you've had opportunities.
Yeah, I've certainly had some conversations. Yeah. Never was given any kind of formal offers. We've just been kind of courted by a few labels, but that didn't necessarily present itself in the form of a deal. But I'm not against or opposed to having more of those conversations. But
you don't really like have to have one. It's like in your shoes.
I mean, it's an interesting time, the way that you're able to kind of expose things, or expose massive amounts of people to music these days with streaming and internet and stuff. I mean, it can also be easy to get lost in the clutter, because there's shitload of it out there.
There's a lot.
Certainly pays to have a good strategy, but yeah, man, I haven't had any label help yet.
Yeah. I was talking to a guy at a really, really big label, and he hasn't been there all that long. And he was on the publishing side of stuff, and I think he's produced some records and like with some Texas country type guys. And we were just chit chatting, and he was even telling me, he said, it's a little awkward now for me to tell you this, because I'm like on the label side, but like I spent my whole career telling artists they didn't need a label and screw the label, and then now I'm like at a label trying to get artists to sign. He's like, it's a little awkward, but he still kind of believes that that's somewhat true. I think it's just different for everybody. I've seen a lot of guys have so much success on their own, and some have huge success with a label. The Texas model is a little bit different, because like even like a guy like you and go and sign in a label, it's like watching Parker or Cody and all those guys like go and sign label deals. It's not the same as being new to Nashville and getting a record deal. Like those are completely different. Like when you're like rolling in buses, to go sign a record deal is different.
Yeah.
Way different. And I think that's the way to do it. But we're in like a really unique spot out in Texas and stuff, where there's actually like an infrastructure to be able to create something real on your own. That just really doesn't exist anywhere else in the country. Yeah,
it's a really interesting scene that we have down here, and it's kept me busy for a long time. I've kind of, since I did the publishing deal, or since I had that, I've always gone out to Nashville, and I've always had people that work with me that live out in Nashville, and so I've kind of played both sides a little bit. But yeah, man, I'm certainly grateful to have the home base and the roots, and just the the spirit for music that folks have down here. It's a really cool thing to be able to run around and play, keep myself busy with. But yeah, dude, it's. I mean, if I wasn't playing music, I don't know what else I'd be doing. But it seems like I've stumbled on something that at least I enjoy very much, and I'm half-assed good at.
You're very good at it.
So
I'd be shoeing horses for sure. I mean, I still kind of do, but different phase.
Yeah,
I'm not quite there yet. What would you be doing?
Man, I don't know, dude. I love to cook.
Cool.
So I don't know that I'd want to own a restaurant by any means, or be a chef, because that's a lot of stress too, different kind of stress. But I don't know, if the stakes were not so high, I feel like I would love to be a chef. I just like to cook for people. If I didn't have to like make a restaurant survive and worry about that whole business, I'd like to do that.
I recently got into cooking a little bit more, probably last year or so.
Did you?
More so like I cook a lot of fish. Just pan searing stuff. I'm like obsessed with it.
Oh, it's great. You a stainless guy?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
The art of cooking with stainless pans, it's great. I was frustrated when I was a kid because I just didn't know the proper way. But as long as you heat it up, you got to bring that pan to temperature first.
Okay.
And then it's essentially non-stick if you use the right, kind of oil and stuff. But,
yeah, I got onto the avocado oil thing. It's got a high smoke point. But I just discovered the other day that there's some oil, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the highest smoke point oil in the world. But it's like some sort of algae type oil.
I don't know. I haven't used it.
I know. I need to figure it out, and I'll text it to you because like I want to sear my steaks in it or something.
Okay.
Just like you can apparently get it, like it like will not smoke.
Really?
But the only other one that I've seen is like avocado oil. You can get that pretty freaking hot.
Yep.
But then the olive oil burns a little bit if you get it too hot.
Yeah, I mean, I usually go olive oil. If not, every once in a while I'll get wild and render my own tallow.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So I'll use that.
Like with a steak, you just render it down or something.
Cook steak.
Or do you just actually have some beef tallow?
No, like I'll go to the store and just get a like 10 pounds of beef fat and then render my own tallow.
Does that not smoke real bad?
I mean, I just, if I'm searing something, I just
accept that
it's going to smoke a little bit.
So that's my dream, is to have a lot of people think about the type of burner you have, but I want to have like a ridiculous fan, vacuum thing, so I can just sear the piss out of stuff.
Exactly,
because the whole house is.
Yes. No, I mean when we cook a lot of bacon. I use the stove a lot, and we've got unfortunately, electric range right now, which is not ideal. I would love to have a gas range, but
I just hate how it turns on and off.
The electricity,
does yours like pulse?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like why?
I just
why can't it just be consistent?
I need you to provide constant temperature.
That's what
here,
I paid for.
Because it goes from like 350 to 300 to 350 to 300. It's like, dude, stay at 350.
Yeah, if you're flipping that steak, you're gonna have like 30 seconds where it's 50 degrees cooler. Mm-hmm. I mean, that dog's just not gonna hunt.
Yeah, the most of the time, if I'm really trying to get a good sear, I just got to go outside with it, get on the pit.
Like with a cast iron, or do you still stainless steel it?
No, just like a barbecue pit, like a cowboy. I've a couple different options. Offset smoker that you can put real wood underneath, so you got real fire. But I also have a pellet grill too that gets pretty hot.
But you like the little stripes on it.
I mean,
or do you like it
you
to
eat
have
with your eyes?
Huh? You
eat with your eyes.
I know, but I like it to be like a consistent sear.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah. So like cast irons.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. No, that's great. And honestly, I've never thought of it from like if I actually prefer one to the other, but either way, it's got to be seared.
Insanely
a nice
hot.
Even sear, whether it's got the grate on it or the cast iron.
Okay, so do you cook much fish? Searing fish?
I do. We make I make salmon most of the time,
Okay.
and I'll cook it with the skin on. I pull the scales off, but the skin's still on, and then just pretty much skin side down. You're cooking it 90% of the time on the skin side, and then when you serve it, you actually put it skin side up, because when you cook it that way, the skin gets super crispy on the top, and that's nice.
Oh, so you eat the skin?
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've gotten
it.
the skin crispy enough to eat it.
It's tricky because you can't cook it hot. It's got to be kind of like a medium low temperature, and it takes a minute. Like it'll probably take 20 minutes to cook a piece of fish.
Whoa.
But
I'm
you're just
doing it completely wrong.
You just want to just barely hear it kind of sizzling.
Yeah.
You know, you can take it on and off the heat if you have to. But
My fish always sticks. Drives me nuts.
Yep. You have to, the best way to do it, you have to have, it's got to be very dry, you know. So what I'll do, take it out of the fridge, you know, like an hour or so before. First, room temp is important too. You don't want to put a super cold piece of fish there because it'll be raw in the middle and overcooked on the outside.
Or it allows you to sear it for longer
Well,
because it's cold on the inside.
Perhaps,
Right?
but the most important part that I've found to searing is it's got to be nice and dry. So I'll salt it first, way more salt than you need, for like an hour before, and it'll draw a lot of moisture out of the skin, and then I'll just wipe it off
Okay.
to where it's nice and dry, paper towel, and then a little bit of oil. Because otherwise, if you put too much oil or there's too much moisture, then you're just boiling it essentially, and it's not going to be able to get crispy.
Yeah, I normally do the salt on my steak, you know, and then it draws out a lot of that moisture, but I've never done it with the fish. I think that's my problem. I think they're too wet. I dry them off like crazy, and then like I did a halibut the other night. I was so excited, and I dried the thing off like 6 times.
Yeah.
And then stuck it in the pan, immediately stuck to the pan, just ruined the
Oh,
fish.
no.
I was like, oh my gosh. It's like a $17 halibut fillet.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
so frustrating.
I was talking about that the other day with Sarah because she didn't realize that halibut is essentially like a giant flounder. It's like
Never thought about it that way.
you catch them in Alaska, they'll be 800 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just huge.
Yeah, but they actually do taste pretty much the same.
They're really good.
Yeah,
they're really
great,
good, but they're flat. They got 2 eyes on one side of their head, like a flounder.
I guess
too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's wild.
Huh. They're just thicker.
They're huge. I mean, I don't know what a state record flounder is, but I'm assuming it's, you know, this big. But I mean, a halibut will be as big as that curtain right there. I mean, they're just
like a
they're
grouper.
giant. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
huge. And a lot of times when they catch them, you know, they're on the bottom, and so it's like you can't even tell if you're hung up or if you've got a fish unless you're like, you know what you're feeling. You got to
So they're like on
you
the
got to
bottom
pull
of the
them
ocean.
off the bottom. Yeah.
Just like a flounder. I don't know how I missed that. They're just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, man. I mean, maybe you could catch them in the like the open water too,
no
but yeah, just the way that I've heard the fishing experience described. Like there was this one guy that was he ended up catching, it was like a 600 or 700 pound halibut, but he was he thought he was just stuck on the bottom and was just hung up on something, and finally he could feel the line vibrating. He was like, "Holy shit, we're on."
damn.
Yeah.
Is this somebody you knew?
No, it was just and maybe 600 or 700 pounds is off. I mean, I don't know. It was huge.
yeah, who knows?
They had it hung up, and the thing was as tall or taller than the guy that was standing next to it, and so he has hundreds of pounds. But I don't. Huge.
I did my
They get real
first
big.
gigging for flounder. I did that for the first time like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And that is, you ever done that?
Oh yeah. Was it? Did you do it at night?
Uh-huh.
Do you have one of those flashlight things?
He had him like he had a slick rig. Like he had lights rigged up on the front and the bottom of the boat.
Oh, okay. So you're on a boat.
Yeah, and then he was up like on the bow like with a joystick. Or yeah, sort of. And it was like rigged up to the back to a fan because he had a fan boat.
Yeah.
And so he could move that fan, and he was up at the front spotting for stuff, and he had the lights going up there, and so he would just he'd drive you right up on top of him,
That's awesome.
and you just freaking stick him.
Yeah, man. I've never done it from a boat. I did it one time, just kind of walking around.
Well, see,
and-
that would be miserable.
Well, I mean, it was just pretty much, shin to waist deep water that we were walking in. But we had these lights, and it was so wild. It was like a PVC pipe kind of thing with it looked like a GoPro at the end of it, but it was just like some sort of a light. And you could you could flex it to where you could change the angle of it. And outside of the water, it was a super bright light, but as soon as you put it in the water, it was almost like it illuminated twice as much space underwater as it did out of the water.
Okay.
So you're just like, you got your gig in one hand, your light in the other, and it's kind of like a little metal detector. You're just like looking for them, and they're buried a lot of times in the sand. You got to shuffle your feet because of stingrays too, because they'll get your ass.
Did you have waders on or something?
No,
Oh, you're just
like in
Raw
ball
dogging it,
shorts,
yeah.
and I think I was barefoot. You know.
Oh yeah, you would
you
have
could-
gotten lit up.
Yeah. But you could maybe, depending on where you're at, because sometimes it's a little rocky or oystery bottom where you're going, and shoes would be more appropriate. But
Yeah.
if it's just sandy, yeah.
I guess if you're on a lot of them, it was kind of stormy when we went, so
Yep.
it was a little bit murky, and then it was raining and stuff. So I guess they were moving in like weird spots or something. If
Yeah.
we'd have been walking, like, I mean, we maybe would have gotten one in 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah.
But on a boat, he would just like, we'd go
Hauling
clear
ass.
across to another spot. He's like, no, we'll see some here. And then he'd just drive right up on them and we'd stab a bunch of them.
Oh,
We
that's
got a
great.
ton of them.
Hell yeah.
I was a little surprised too. My wife wasn't weird about it at all. Like she was a little bit worried about not liking it,
Yeah.
you know, but she just freaking
Hell yeah.
trident.
Dude, those are so badass. I love spearfishing.
I see.
Done
I've never
that
gone
a couple times.
spearfishing.
Well, I call it spearfishing. It was essentially like you got a pole with the trident on the end of it.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't like one where you.
Yeah, yeah,
Shoot
like
the
actually
spear.
shooting it underwater.
I never got to do that.
Is it still rolling? Yeah. Cool. That's perfect. I'm gonna relight this little booger right here. Right here. I wonder how does that work on? We're gonna get roasted for this.
Yeah, you want a cup?
No, I own
Are we
it.
drinking that?
I own it, bro.
Gamer.
I usually,
Can we say that?
I usually say every time I do it, they're like, "What are you drinking?" I'm like, "Bud Light." I can just see it coming, you know. And they're like, you like see them take a deep breath, like they're about to freaking destroy you. And I'm like, "Yeah, man. I don't know. Probably about 6 months, year ago, they had a dope marketing campaign, and I never really drank it. But after that, and then it's just I can't."
Well, it came back strong.
They did. It's like it never happened.
Yeah, old Shane Gillis is helping with that.
I think Zach Bryan helped too, didn't he? Wasn't he a Bud Lighter?
Man, I don't know. I don't know, man. I just know that Shane.
How funny is that guy?
Oh, dude, he's
like comedy?
hilarious. Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm not as a. Can I borrow that lighter? I'm not as official. Let's touch. That's when you need to zoom in. As I don't know it as well as I probably should for, to be talking about it. But now that I paid attention to the Kill Tony thing for a while now, and of course listen to Rogan frequently, and there's just I don't know. The comedy thing's always been super interesting. I'm just happy to see that it's more available now. I mean, I feel like there's just a lot more.
I think it's better.
A lot
too.
more places that you can go see it. But even like, I don't know, dude. I think comedy is so situational. Like stuff that I wouldn't laugh at normally. Like if I'm at a comedy club, it's just so much more funny when you're seeing it live in person.
Yeah.
Like I'm way more likely to laugh at something if I'm actually experiencing it live versus just watching a special on Netflix or something.
I've always thought about they always talk about how they have to work out their bits and stuff in front of a live audience.
Oh yeah.
And I've always kind of been curious about that because I think just songwriting is so similar to creating stand-up comedy.
Yep.
The process, the creative process. But I never hear people in our world talk about like, man, I just got to work it out in front of some live people. And I wonder if we should think about that more.
I mean, there's certainly an element to the live performance. I mean, you can only rehearse so many times, but once the lights are on, it's a different kind of performance when you've got a live audience in front of you.
Yeah.
It's just,
But maybe they do also talk about in comedy how there's guys who are great writers, but they're just not very good stand-up
Yeah.
guys, which, okay, I get that because that's the difference between the performance element of it I think they're so similar.
Yeah.
But think about Kill Tony for existence. Kill Tony for
I know what you mean.
existence. Just got to lean into it. What if there was a songwriter thing like that, where you had a panel of people that would then live like critique you? There could be a comedic element to it as well.
I don't want no part of that shit.
That's what I mean. But why? Like, shouldn't there be something like that?
Man, that definitely sounds interesting. But I mean, that sounds.
And imagine
like,
a bunch of sensitive songwriters getting like
that sounds
destroyed.
Like an anxiety attack waiting to
Yeah,
happen.
but in a way, I think it would probably be good for most of us.
Yeah, I mean, certainly to get a healthy dose of humble pie every once in a while. But like, there's been a few like radio things where I've done that they'll like, all right, we're gonna have our listeners call in and give you 10 words, and you got to write a song with these 10 words. It's like live on the air.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
How many times does that happen?
Well, it's happened exactly twice with the same radio station.
They're seared in your brain.
There were terrible. I mean, they're terrible songs, and they're just trying to. It's like a morning show. They're just trying to get some interesting content, you know. And they weren't expecting me to hit them with an award-winning song.
I couldn't do it.
But just writing with that kind of a deadline, it's like, man, I like these open-ended writes where if we don't leave with the song, it's fine. We can come back later. It's always nice to finish something, but we started this conversation live on the air, and then at the end of this segment, you're expecting me to have something written that I'm now going to turn around and play live on the air. It's like, this is going to suck. I don't like this at all. Oh, of course it sucked. Yeah. But, I mean, it was funny. It was goofy. And, of course, like, the words that people called in to use, they were just like, good luck getting that to make sense or rhyme with anything. But... they're just trying to spice up their program.
But those writer rounds in Nashville, I just don't understand why. It seems like there's a disconnect in music where you have like the obligatory clap or the no clap or like the half clap or like the half clap. That sounds like you got like half of something you don't want. Or
you thought somebody was clapping in the back of the room. Turns out they're just packing some cigarettes.
No. Oh, no. That one hit home so hard. Or the TVs, man. Just the TVs on.
Yeah.
There was one that I did at the Texas Rangers game, and there was a suite, but I played up in one of the little box suites, but it was like a shared suite. So there's a bunch of people in there, but most all of them don't know the other people. Like you could buy 2 tickets to the suite.
Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of people that don't know each other in there. And I'm playing this little gig in there, acoustic, and they have me up on this little 1/2-foot tall stage right in front of the TV, and they have the game like on the TV, and my head is in the middle of the TV, like directly into the middle of the TV, and just watching somebody like I'm in the middle of playing something and watching them just straighten my eyes, just like try to lean around me, to try to see what's on the TV.
I was like, hey, let me help you out here. I'll just sink down a little bit.
It literally gives me like goosebumps. It almost makes me feel ill. I got my big old stupid cowboy hat on, like right in the middle of the brutal.
Good thing I wore this one today.
See, you didn't go through any of that. You were so good that you just went straight to.
Oh, geez, no. I've certainly played plenty of times for bar staff, that didn't give a shit.
Yeah. Sometimes the bar staff is actually really sweet.
No, it's great. I mean, I've had plenty of good and awful times, out there, but it's just part of it, man. You learn to appreciate it, and it's always happened. Like whenever we've had our biggest and best gigs, whether it be like biggest crowds or like a bucket list type of venue or made the most money we've ever made in a night, whatever. Every time that it's usually that same weekend, we'll play a show that's like the worst. I remember our first time we headlined the main stage at Billy Bob's. I'm like, Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
We made it. This has been something that, being a musician in Texas, is like your goal at some point is to play the main stage there. And it was like, hell yeah, we finally got our show, and we played it, and it was a great crowd, a few thousand people, one of the biggest crowds we'd played for. The very next night, we're like 100 miles away in this little town in East Texas, and we sold like 27 tickets all night, and there were people that, I mean, they showed up and they have no idea who we are. They're just there because that's the only place to go in this little town. And I remember there was this guy, he was like this legendary old man. He walks in, I'm assuming he's a legend. He's got to be. He walks in and he's got like 8 other women with him, all probably between 60 and 80 years old.
The women?
Him, he's probably mid-70s, handsome guy, but
Oh, so he's still going for
an older gentleman.
older ones. He's still into older women.
And every one of these women, they're with him, and it's like they're following his lead. Like, he walks in first, they follow behind, he sits down, they all sit down. And then he's got probably a dozen different, maybe more, but this particular evening when we're playing, and I know he's never seen us before, we've never seen him before, but he's got a line dance, a different line dance. He's got a dozen different line dances. And he just stands up. When he hears a song that he wants to dance to, he stands up, and right after he does, all these other women stand up, and they follow him out to the dance floor. He leads them in a line dance. Song's over. They go sit back down.
And you're watching this while you're singing.
And I'm like, dude, I'm kind of jealous of this guy.
Yeah, sure.
Like, how did... save some for the rest of us. First
save
of
those
all.
80-year-old
the
women.
riz
Yeah.
on this man. But no, dude, it was awesome. But 35 tickets sold, whatever it was, at the end of the night. And the night before, we were 100 miles away. Biggest show we've ever played. It's like we're at the top of the mountain, and then
Just
well,
come
here we
crashing.
are.
Dude,
This
you
is
have
reality.
No idea how good that is for me to hear.
And I'm telling you, every time it's happened, every time since, it's like whenever we have something kind of breakthrough happening, it's like, holy shit, we've been trying to get in this room forever.
You just get humbled.
Or we
immediately.
just like finally hit some kind of milestone. Just like, well, something, the ebb and flow. It's got to ebb at some point. It's flowing right now,
Yeah.
but we got the ebb coming.
Yeah,
so.
I've always said, and I've just tried to take the mental, I guess, position of like, don't go too high with the highs and don't go too low with the lows. Mm-hmm. So my immediate family sometimes gets a little bit confused. Maybe, I don't know, they can be a little hard on me with like, well, you need to enjoy it a little bit. Do you even enjoy it? Like, are you having fun at all? And I think there is a part of me that's just calculated where I'm like, I'm just not letting myself get too excited about this because I know in a week,
Yeah,
something's gonna happen.
That's me. That's me. I mean, I'm chronically optimistic, but at the same time, I don't like when people see something and they'll try and get excited before something actually happens. They know it or they think it's going to happen, and so they just start getting all excited. I'm like, well, just hang on. Let's wait till that money hits the account first.
Were you always like that, or is that something you sort of just learned?
Man, I mean, I've always been kind of naturally cautious, optimistic, but also cautious. We've just had, situations growing up where, investments or different things didn't quite pan out, business relationships, people in our family have really gotten taken advantage of in certain areas. And so, I know that sort of stuff is out there and it's possible. It could happen to anyone. So, yeah, I mean, it's certainly some of that kind of stuff. Like, things haven't always worked out for the best. We've certainly seen our share of misfortune over the years as well. But, just keep your head straight, look forward, and don't, like you were saying, don't get too bummed about bad things. But also understand when things are going good that this ain't forever.
When I first started out, I had pretty much through the whole process of me doing this, keeping a band together and just doing that whole thing has always been a little bit tough for me. And I've had a lot of guys just kind of in and out. Here for the last like couple years, I've had some consistent guys that are great. So maybe part of it too was just finding the right guys. But what I have struggled with in the past is because I don't like to talk about anything before it actually comes to fruition. I don't like to feel like I'm like bullshitting people either. You know, like if something good is happening for sure, like it's already happened, sure, like I'll share it. But I'm just not really into the selling something before it's necessary, if that makes sense. And, and I've noticed like building bands, you know, there's a lot of guys I've seen that, not a lot, but some that I know are just kind of full of shit. And they always have great players around them, and they're always kind of dragging people along and, you know, just kind of bullshitting people. And then usually at some point it comes out that they're full of it, and then the band, you know, whatever. The guys leave, and they're like, man, that guy's full of shit, and that kind of thing. Yeah. But I always see them, like, getting more people, and I just never wanted to be that way. At the same time, it's, like, hurt me with trying to get people because I'm not great at, like, selling what I'm doing, if that makes sense. And I feel like there's some sort of balance there. Because it's not fair to, like, band members if they never know what's going on and they don't know any opportunities that are happening. That's not really fair for them to be in the dark about all of that. Yeah. At the same time, I don't want to feel like I'm just selling them all the time, like high hopes. So it wasn't really as much of a question as it was an observation. And I find that to be one of the most difficult parts of the whole thing is just keeping a band together, having a band, keeping a band together. Sure.
No, and that was definitely a struggle that I knew all too well and still have issues with from time to time. But yeah, putting a band together in the beginning, it was hard to get guys that were willing to commit exclusively because, you know, I'd find players and they played with half a dozen different bands, and it was just whoever got the gigs first got the confirmed players. And, you know, it's hard to book your schedule out when you don't have a confirmed band, and it's hard to book your band when you don't have a full schedule. And so it was just like I was playing sometimes with 2 or 3 different players in the same weekend because, you know, this guy could play bass for me this night, but he wasn't available on Saturday, so I had to get another bass player to come in and play on Saturday. So, and then it's hard to deal with because then, you know, some of the guys are better than others, and some of them have attitude things, and there's just like some of them, you know, can't stay sober. It's like there's all these different variables that have to come into play, and you know, you're dealing with artistic tendencies and people that, you know,
that was with an R, right?
Kind of by maybe autistic also. I don't know. There's definitely some. I've had some people on the spectrum around, maybe myself included. I don't know. I haven't ever seen this spectrum or tested myself. But.
We probably both have a touch of the tism for sure.
But no, man, just dealing with different things, different personalities, and being a good hang, I've learned is as equally as important as being a good player on the road. You know,
but even being a good hang can seem like that doesn't mean you have to be like funny all the time.
No, just don't cause problems.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
You don't have to be aloof. You can be off on your own. You can hang out. You can be full of personality or not have much. But just at the end of the day, be where you're supposed to be on time. Do what you're supposed to do, and don't be a burden to other people around. You know, just like get by and make it easier for others to get by. Help and how you can. But yeah, so because that's been, you know, something we've had guys that are just monster players, but then they just suck to be around. They're like, you dread going to work on the weekends, and it's like, we're supposed to be entertaining people, and all I can think about is how I can't stand this person I'm on stage with. And it bleeds into, you know, just your overall zest for life. It just takes the shine off of things.
Yeah. And then like, if that person starts like pulling that energy, you know, and then other people start gravitating towards that in the group, it's just like a toxic thing to develop.
It sucks.
It's like even if one person, like, I just hate the idea of somebody acting like they don't want to be there. It's like, don't be here.
Yeah.
Don't be. Like, if you don't want to be here, don't be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to do this in between thing that we're just like acting like we're having a bad time. I'm not having a bad time, and I don't want to have a bad time. But that smug, like, I'm too cool to be here. I don't want to be here. I can't stand it, bro.
Yeah.
Can't stand passive aggressive either. That's a big one. You got something, you got an issue. Let's
talk
Let's
about
address it.
Yeah.
You know, we can do it appropriately, but we all have tendencies of being a little bit too passive aggressive. But I get it. It's like conflict avoidance. The stuff you're talking about though is that's like all stuff that's just has to be learned the hard way by just doing it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I see a lot of like right now, specifically, you have people, they put out one song of them playing in their garage, and then like overnight they are like exploding, and record labels are signing them, and I mean they are freaking turning into like overnight sensations. And I just hope there's so many intangibles that you only can learn by doing it, like managing a band. Like, what's it like to be out on the road? Like, what's it like to have to get up at 5 a.m.? What's it like to have to drive all the way through the night, and then you have to do a radio interview in the morning, and then your voice is tired, and then you still have to go like sound check, and then how do you run a sound check? And like, do you know anything about live sound?
Yeah.
Like, how do you organize a band? How do you run a set list together? Like, how do you run in-ears? Like, do you have that equipment? Do you have that gear? Who's going to be your front of house guy? How do you talk to the front of house guy? How do you read the friggin' deal sheet at the end of the night and make sure you didn't get ripped off? Like, how much are you going to sell your tickets for? Like, I mean, there's so much stuff that goes into like doing all of this. And I have a fear. I'm happy for people that like have these explosive moments, but I'm very like kind of fearful for them that they haven't learned like a lot of that stuff, and they're just going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
And a lot of the industry doesn't like, even some of them have a disconnect. Like, you can talk to a booking agent and a label guy, and half of them haven't been on the road. Like, they don't even really know what it's like. They've never even sat there during a sound check. So when you're talking to your booking agent after, and you're like, what are these places? Like, we need to figure out something with like the sound that is going on in these places. And they're just like, well, I don't, like, they think you're being a turd. And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm ranting. It's only because there's somebody who like can like understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I get it, man.
That's why I'm thankful for like a slow burn and having to learn the hard way, because I think it'll pay dividends. I think. Yeah.
No, I mean that's what I'm hoping. You know, for me as well. I mean, I've certainly had some pops here and there, and noticeable increases in this or that, and but you know, it's something I've been doing for a long time, and I will continue to do for a long time. You know, I forget who it was, if it was Ray Wiley Hubbard or Hayes Carl singing a Ray Wiley Hubbard song or whatever, but he's talking about this line of work, no one retires. And it's like, look at, you know, there's plenty of options out there to study. But
man, Ray Wiley is
country music,
a great example of somebody who he really didn't pop off till way later in his life.
Yeah. And I mean, even when you do, like, maybe you don't play 100 shows a year until you're dead, but like, I don't plan on ever taking the live show off of the agenda. You know, I mean, I would love to play 30 shows a year, you know, if they're making the right money and I'm living the lifestyle that I would like to. But you know, I love to perform and I love to travel, and I mean, playing with the band and spending time with those guys is always just one of my favorite things to do. And so
Do you play a lot of sports?
I did. I mean, growing up, yeah, I played baseball, basketball, football,
So that
soccer.
like locker room teammate kind of thing.
Oh, camaraderie is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something I knew that football was probably the sport I was most passionate about, arguably for the least amount of time, because I only played football for 6 years. But, you know, and I remember playing my last game, and I was just mortified. I was like, dude, I'm never going to play football again. Like, I've done this. I've committed not my life. I mean, I definitely did plenty of other shit
Up
too.
to
but
that point,
there was so much that I'd put into it. But then it was just like, dude, I'm not gonna have the same time with my buds, like you know, not necessarily bleeding or killing yourself, but there's a lot that you're like sacrificing for the greater good of the team, you know, hopefully. And just that sort of camaraderie and relationship that I had with those guys on the team, it was sad once it was all over, because I knew that wasn't going to be a possibility for me in the future. Playing football in college was not in the cards for me. But, you know, I have the opportunity to kind of continue that same sort of spirit with the guys in the band, and we're all a part of something that's bigger than any of us individually, and it's just really cool to share that with people and to go out and see what we can make happen, you know, take these songs that we've written and share them with the world, and hopefully, you know, get something back, put a few smiles on people's faces, and you know, leave our mark however we can. I don't know what that means, however big or small it may be in the end. But
yeah, we're on like such a crazy free roll. Like, you get born into America, and then our biggest problem is like not having enough people at a show.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's insane. Absolutely insane. Are you playing in Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
What days?
I
wonder if we can get this out before.
So we're playing Saturday and Sunday.
This Saturday?
Yeah, the 7th and 8th.
Oh, I'll be there.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
I mean, not at yours, but I'll be out there.
Well, I mean, it's hard to be at the same place.
I'm just kidding. I didn't know that you were playing. I'm going to go on Saturday then.
Cool.
Where are you playing at?
So, good question. It's downtown. I forget the name of the venue. It's like a...
Oh, it's like the old Vegas?
No, it's like they've got some sort of a tent set up, and it's downtown Vegas. I forget exactly. Yes, that's ringing a bell.
Is that where they're doing the Cowboy Christmas?
I don't know.
It's not the Rodeo Vegas thing, right?
I don't know.
But you're playing Sunday too.
Yeah, Sunday we're playing at Zook nightclub. It's
cool.
Resorts World, I think, is the place that one's at, and I'm looking forward to it, man. We had the Zook thing booked for a while, and this other one just came up. The Saturday show just came up recently.
That's perfect.
So we were already going to be out there. And we're like, hell yeah, let's double up.
Yeah.
So,
are you going to hit other ones while out that way, or no? Are you guys going to come straight back?
No, we're just flying out for those.
Oh,
they'll have backline gear and stuff, so we'll just take our guitars and skeleton crew. But
do you gamble at all?
Man, you know, I'll mess around a little bit, and I really like to, but you know, I'm not the kind of guy that's willing to risk thousands of dollars to make thousands.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like every time I gamble, I'd win or lose a couple $100, and that's all that I never really get up or down big because I'm not
craps.
You know, I have, but it's always whenever I've gone out, it's like, all right, I'm with somebody that's gonna play with me and kind of teach me the rules. But every time, it's always like, seems like years in between where I'll play craps, and so I always forget how to play. So I've never really gotten in a groove where I feel like I could just show up to any table and gamble by myself. I always want to be like, what should I do?
What would be the game that you like the most?
Man, I've won the most on roulette.
Oh, okay.
I've lost the most on blackjack.
Okay.
But I mean, blackjack is what I play most frequently. I feel like I'm just more familiar with that game than any other. But there's so many different variations, you know, single deck or with other people.
I don't even know if I've ever played single deck.
I have, and it's intense, you know.
It's totally, I mean, geez.
But I've just, again, I've never done it enough to where I'm really feeling confident about every move I make. And I've sat at a few tables where you got some butthole sitting over here and you make the wrong bet and he calls you out. And then like now you feel like a dumbass.
Dude,
and so
I
you
tell
have
him.
that pressure.
Every table I go to, I just go, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to play.
Yeah. Like what I've learned to do is the first couple times I win, I'll tip the dealer good.
Yeah.
So if I'm about to fuck up and sit and do the wrong thing, usually they'll be like, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
You know, they'll give you a little cue.
Yeah, you're doing the like hit. That happens to me all the time. I'll slap my hand on the table like hit me, and I'm like bam, and they look at me, and I'm like
that means stay.
Don't want to do it. I was doing this.
Is that a fair catch?
Yeah, it's a fair catch. I did a fair catch. I would. You got to play Sunday, so I get it. But I was gonna say on Saturday we should go freaking clackety clack. Go
Let's
play
do
some
it.
craps or something.
I mean, we're in Vegas, bud.
Well,
And we
I know,
don't-
but
I
I-
don't play till Sunday night.
But well,
So I got
look.
Sunday to.
Yeah, but yeah,
do
I got
nothing.
a fragile voice, you know.
Well, they pump all that O2 out there into the casinos. It feels like.
Is that a theory or is that a real
Really?
thing?
I mean, I've never felt more alive at times than I have in those casinos. But I don't know if that's the oxygen or
I don't know what it is.
the
could
cheap
be a little bit of
drinks.
the
I don't
booze,
know,
yeah.
or maybe expensive drinks, whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, we should play while we're out there.
hell yeah, we can find a table.
Yeah.
I especially if you want to play craps, like I would love to sit in on a craps
Okay,
game.
then let's do that.
And I was just talking. So Casey Donahue, we've got a run of shows that we're doing in December, and we just played this last weekend, and we were talking about it. He's a big gambler. Casey is.
Didn't know
And
that.
he was teaching me some of the finer things about betting on the craps table
Okay.
and gambling in general.
Is he going to be out there? I know
Oh,
he
yeah.
will be.
He'll be there.
Same time?
So he's playing Zook also.
I feel like
forget
he
which
stays out
day.
there for a while.
Well, he's been doing it for a long time, but this one, I think this year he was saying he's just going to be out there for maybe a day or two.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he likes to gamble.
If we found a craps table and could get all of us on there,
Oh, that would be
Dude,
the best. Like
holy
just
cow.
a table full of people that we know
oh my gosh, dude. It's
losing
the
our
most-
ass.
That's the thing. It's like it
Or
can still be sort
just-
of fun.
Yeah.
If you're losing, because at least you're all in it together.
Yeah.
But if y'all get on a heater and somebody's rolling a long time,
Dude, I
there
can't-
might not be anything more fun
I
than
can't-
all of us high fiving and
Dude, I can't imagine a better time.
like a 30,
Than
40
a
minute
heater.
roll.
Oh, God,
bro.
dude.
Yeah. I'm in. I'm totally in.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks for doing this, dude. If we get,
You bet.
I don't know if we get this out before the Vegas shows, but you don't have a timeline on your new music coming out, do you?
First quarter, loosely, of 25.
Financial term there. First quarter of 2025.
So yeah, I mean that's a nice, I guess, diplomatic way of putting it. I don't want to
Yeah.
hold myself down too much, but
But you got new music coming next year.
yes, definitely. And we've started it. I'm going out next week to work on it some more. So it's over the next few weeks it'll start coming together. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
And you can find Mike on the World Wide Web at
Mike Ryan
at
Band.
it's http // www dot
Mike Ryan Band.
Mike Ryan
.com.
Band.
Yeah. Or my crying band on TikTok.
I made that joke on
Or
my TikTok
Mike
live
Ryan Band on all the other socials.
right before
But
you
yeah.
got here. It was really hard for me to not say it.
What? My crying band?
I did it on my TikTok live earlier. I said Mike Ryan's coming later. Not Mike Ryan. Mike Ryan. And I was like, surely he's heard that a million times.
Oh man. Yeah, well the scammers beat me to the TikTok page. Mike Ryan in every form and fashion was already taken. So I had to get creative with it.
Kind of a compliment.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean those guys
Wait,
something else.
hold on. Your actual name on TikTok is Mike Ryan.
My crying band.
Oh.
My TikTok handle. Yeah.
I hate to overdo it, but I didn't know that.
Hell yeah, dude.
I thought that was just something stupid that people would normally say to you.
No, man, I used to
I didn't know you leaned into it.
No, I'd started doing that a long time ago, man. At the end of my shows frequently I would sign off with "Thank you for listening to my crying band."
I didn't know that was your actual TikTok handle.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, mycrying.com.
You bet.
Farmersonly.com. the freaking. All right. See y'all.
Sing